Welcome to Morningstar. Today I have the great pleasure of speaking to Matthew Donen, equity analyst at Morningstar, and we'll be covering the offshore equity market. And I just want to start with, if you could just outline what are the advantages of offshore wind energy and how much offshore wind capacity is there at present, Matthew?
Hi. So offshore wind is when the wind farm and the wind turbines are out at sea. So the biggest benefit is that the winds out at sea are generally stronger than on land and therefore can yield more energy. So while offshore wind capacity grew 16-fold in the previous decade to 56 gigawatts, it still remains a relatively new technology and contributes only 7% of global wind capacity at present.
And also, if you were to build on that, I mean, which are the region currently producing the most offshore wind energy, and what is the current outlook in the market?
Yeah, so we anticipate a 6-fold increase in offshore wind capacity this decade, despite having already grown 16-fold in the previous decade. And we think that's mainly because offshore wind capacity at present remains heavily concentrated towards the top 3 regions, which are China, the UK, and Germany, who account for over 80% of global offshore wind capacity at present. And we expect that many new countries will tap into this favorable energy source, offshore wind, thanks to its favorable characteristics, as well as the declining cost, where the levelized cost of energy for offshore wind has declined by more than 50% in the past decade. And just to give you an example, Norway is no exception to this, our outlook, where the government's actually targeting 30 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2040. So to put that into perspective, Norway is targeting to have developed over half of the existing global wind capacity at present today by 2040.
And that's really interesting. You mentioned Norway because, sort of focusing on Norway again, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges at present and also globally?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest challenge, and this is both in Europe and in Norway, is a lengthy and bureaucratic permitting process, which has caused delays of several years before a wind project can be constructed and subsequently added to the energy mix. So in Europe, for example, over 80% of the current wind pipeline is currently sitting under the permitting phase instead of being under construction and then subsequently adding more renewable energy to the energy mix. Some other challenges include the storage capabilities at present are not sufficient enough for a highly populated city to purely rely on renewable energy. Another challenge is also the significant investment that is required in order to distribute and transmit the energy from where it is typically generated, which is in remote areas, out at sea, for example, to where it's widely used in highly populated cities. So we still need significant more investment in the transmission system and the distribution.
And for anyone interested in investing in that, within that space, do you have any sort of companies in mind? Any companies that are well positioned and that could do well, the next couple of years?
Yes, so I mean, there are numerous beneficiaries from the transition to wind energy. The biggest beneficiaries are actually the wind turbine manufacturers, the likes of Vestas. But we actually don't like that industry. It's a highly competitive industry, and the companies in that space have actually all generating operating losses, which points to the competitive nature of the sector. Our preferred way for investors to get exposure to the theme is through the producers of offshore wind energy, the likes of RWE and Ørsted, as well as some utilities who are investing to support the critical infrastructure that is required to transmit the renewable energy to its users. So we prefer to invest in the likes of RWE, Ørsted, as well as some US utilities.
Thank you, Matthew. For Morningstar, I am Johannes Haraldsen.